The Polyglot Gathering is organized by Education at Internet.
Hello. Thank you for coming for my presentation. My name is Marek Blahuš and I come from Brno. So I just came on foot here and I'm very happy to be on this Polyglot Gathering. It's my 6th time now. And I couldn't resist putting the picture of my 3 lovely children on the first slide. They are now aged 9, 7 and 4. And they are all native Esperanto speakers. And that's the topic of my talk today. I had a lightning talk last year, 5 minutes, but I decided to expand it because I think that this phenomenon is still little known and I would like you to have an opportunity to learn more about this. Let me start with just a little small survey. How many of you here have at least at some point started to learn Esperanto or maybe speak it till this day? Thank you. So it's like about the half. Thank you. Another question. How many of you have already met a native speaker of Esperanto and are aware of that? Because you may have, yeah, there's also some like third of you. And is there possibly a native Esperanto speaker among you? Oh, there are 2 of them. So look behind. So they do exist. Thank you for coming. So just to make a short recap in the beginning, for those of you who may not be familiar with Esperanto or just heard it here in the gathering for the first time, it's the most popular, most widely used constructed language. It was created in 1887 by a Jewish doctor Zamenhof in Warsaw. At the time it was Russian Empire, and it spread quickly as an international auxiliary language. And it is in use till this day. It has a history of the world wars and persecution and better times and worse times. But it is a project which, out of those many artificial language projects, has by far the biggest success. It's designed to have no exceptions, to be easy to learn by everyone, and to be used as a second language. So there was not this idea of having native speakers at the beginning. It kind of came as an extra, and it is still a very small part of the language community. This language was created to help people understand each other better, to promote some idea of mutual understanding based on a neutral language. So there is no country where Esperanto will be spoken, and there is no homogeneous community of the speakers. That's a diaspora. So they meet at events, gatherings. Like there are many Esperanto gatherings every day, there is some gathering somewhere in the world. And after all, also this Polyglot Gathering is modeled by its founder, Czech Smith, an Esperanto speaker, on the model of Esperanto gatherings. And there is also a Wikipedia in Esperanto, which is now the 37th by the number of articles, 370,000 articles. It was also founded by Czech Smith, by coincidence. You're welcome. Yes, and it is estimated that Esperanto is spoken by between 200,000 and 2 million speakers in the world. So this is a very large span, and it is difficult to define an Esperanto speakers. It's like asking how many people play chess or collect stamps, because many have started and not so many have achieved fluency or use it till this day. It's the same with the native speakers. Not all of them use the language throughout their whole life. And this can be better estimated that the language is present in more than 120 countries, because that's where members of the largest Esperanto association are based in. And you can also read that the language has in between 500 and 2,000 native speakers, which sounds strange for a constructed language, doesn't it? So this is the topic of the whole presentation, to explain you how this works, because it works in a different way than native speakers work in national languages. And I think that Esperanto is probably the only artificial language which has native speakers. So this phenomenon, the existence of them, is well known within the Esperanto movement. After all, we have them here, and there are some more of them in the gatherings. At one point, I started creating a list of native Esperanto speakers whom I have met, just for me, for my curiosity. I stopped at some point with 20 people. And then I decided to have my own at home. So now Esperanto is the language of my home, and I will explain to you how it works when you use the language at home. It's definitely not the single language. We have a bilingual home now. And there are studies about these native Esperanto speakers called Denaskulo, I will explain. But this is not very well known outside of the community, and that is one of the reasons I have decided to have this presentation. And it is also not very well known among sociolinguists. Maybe also it's partially our fault that we publish about it, but in Esperanto itself. So if you don't know the language, you cannot learn about it. So I will be drawing in this presentation mostly from a rather recent paper by Cyril Brosch, Einige Bemerkungen zur Muttersprachlichkeit in Esperanto, which was published in German by the Society of Interlinguistics. I recommend this article. You can find it online, and you can read it. There are two parts in it. The first one is basically what I will be speaking about, but I will be adding some insights of my own. And there is a second part which documents the language acquisition. So he has actually observed 2 native speakers from birth till age 5 or 6 and recording their progress and how they acquired and at which age and which elements of the language. Obviously there was a second or third language, so they also mixed the languages, and it's interesting to observe this. I also did some notes, but I was not as hardworking as him, always writing down the new elements, because the children don't start using them consciously. They just, for the first time, you hear it, and you may not realize it until they have already acquired it and start use it. Some of those, it's similar to other languages, but not always the same. But there are so few studies about this that he has been one of the first people to describe this in more detail. So we should start with speaking about what is the mother tongue, actually. There is a definition which we have borrowed from the work cited below. A native speaker or a mother tongue speaker is someone who has acquired the language in his childhood and who can use it intuitively, so without thinking about it at all, who has a large vocabulary, is fluent in using the language, doesn't have to make any breaks to think what he's going to say or how he's going to say it. If he knows what to say, he can say it immediately. And these people usually have some person who have taught the language to them. It's not just from friends, from living somewhere, but there is a person who raised the child, maybe just one of the parents taught this particular language, but usually it's the parent, or it may be someone taking care of the children, also can be a grandmother. So in that way you can have more than 2 languages if you add more family members or teachers or the language of the country, but then that's the school possibly. But yeah, you should start even before school if you want to have a mother tongue speaker. But yeah, the border is not so clear. The person can be creative in the language and is capable of interpreting and translating in it. So that's one of the definitions. Actually, everything of this can be achieved also by a second language speaker. You can learn the language to such a proficiency that you cannot be distinguished from a native speaker, but except for the first thing, apparently. Because as an adult, you learn the language by studying its rules, but as a child, you just learn it by listening and repeating what you have heard and trying and making a lot of funny mistakes and so on. So I enjoy being a father of Esperanto-speaking children. They sound funny, and particularly they mix languages a lot, because I'm the only person every day who speaks the language. But I'm happy for this gathering as well. I have a friend, Esperanto-speaking friend here, who stays at my home. So he's happy that he saves for accommodation. I'm happy to have an Esperanto speaker at home to speak to my children. Because when I tell them that there is an Esperanto speaker, they don't really mind. He's from Slovakia, and they could speak to him in Czech and Slovak, and they would understand each other. For them, it's just an Esperanto guest, and they are used to that we have people from the world coming and staying at our home. I used to do it before, because I wanted to meet people from abroad, but now I do it for my children, to have more exposition to Esperanto and different accents, and meet people from the world. And it's interesting because those small children can already be in touch with not only adults, but also other children when we travel who speak the same language using this mother tongue. They couldn't do the same with Czech. They could only speak to Czech children in their other mother tongue, in their true mother tongue, because my wife speaks Czech, than in Esperanto. So there is a word, Denaskulo, which is an Esperanto word, which the article I'm quoting from, and also I'm going to stick to that, it prefers it, because there are differences by which the Esperanto mother tongue speakers differ from all the other national language mother tongue speakers. So this word, if you divide it into pieces, it means some person who speaks the language from birth. Denaskulo, or it's like a shorter version of Denaska Esperanto Parlanto, speaker of the language. And this is the name that they use in the literature as well. Because if you say native speaker, actually it can lead, and it does lead, to confusions. There are some articles by non-Esperanto linguists who have supposed that it works the same as for native languages, or who have misunderstood something. And so not all of the literature is fully correct. And yes, it might be a contribution of using the same words to describe something which is actually not the very same thing. So I will be using the word Denaskulo in the slides mostly. How many of them there are, that's difficult to say, but at least we know some minimal numbers. There was kind of a census in 1957 which calculated 154 people. There is another number, 265 families using Esperanto in some way in 1995. And now there is a 2004 estimate of up to 2,000 Denaskuloi. Denaskuloje, the yo is the plural, which is a recent estimate that you can find in encyclopedias, but I could only count a few tens, but I can imagine that many more of them are adults who may have stopped using the language as well, or you don't know if you count all the people of all ages or just the children until what age, so it's actually not easy to even say who should be counted in. Yeah, it's important to know that these people have not chosen to speak the language as a mother tongue, but who of you has chosen their mother tongues, right? So Esperanto is just one of their mother tongues, and they are free to stop using it when they grow up. I need a little to force our children to use them, but as soon as they learn, the way that we do it is that one person speaks one language. So if they speak to me, they automatically use Esperanto. If they speak to my wife, they automatically speak in Czech. Yes, and if we have guests, then I have to tell them which language they speak. And if the guest actually speaks the language and doesn't mix it, then yeah, they have to obey as well. Then it works easily. And if they come to a gathering where the children don't speak Czech, they have to speak Esperanto. They maybe try, but it doesn't work. So the children are lazy. Yes, between them they speak Czech. They just don't try. Maybe if they want to make fun, they speak Esperanto a bit, or if they want to use a secret language so that the other people don't understand, they can use Esperanto for that. Yes. But yeah, they are free to quit, and not so many of the Denaskulo actually join the Esperanto movement, so they don't go to gatherings. Maybe they did when they were children with the parents. It depends. Yeah? They say it's about half of them who stopped using the language, but they can still remember that, the words, even at higher age. And I know that so many people don't go to gatherings and so, but they still use the language when speaking to their father or to their mother. It's just something you learn as a child and you continue because it feels natural to you. Yeah, because this is a language community without a country and a small one, it faces similar challenges like other minority language communities, that there's not so many books and games and videos, but we do have something. Something is translated, something is originally published by, something is just some amateur translation, but still there is now, if you look in the bookshop, there is a lot of recently published in Britain books for children in Esperanto. So I have bought them all and my children know them all by heart. It's good that children like to repeat reading the same books all the time. So it's kind of a culture in the culture. Esperanto does have a culture, and this is just a subculture for the children. All those books and all those phrases that the children know and can refer to when speaking to each other, because they have learned or read or heard the same book, some of them. Yes, there's not so much. There are events where we can meet. There's the list down there. The most famous one, which I have been to almost every year since I have had the children, is the middle one, Renkontiĝo de Esperanto-familioj, REF. That's an event which is kind of a secret event. You don't really publish about it. You don't recruit participants as you do. You don't write about it in every other week that you have so many people who have already signed up and you want more. No, you choose the people. You actually invite people, and if like somebody's wife doesn't like Esperanto at all, then she should not come because she would spoil the fun. The husband couldn't with the children possibly. So you want to be careful because you are handling with children and you don't want to spoil their fun. You want to have a nice 10, 11 days holiday with them because that's how long it takes for the children to get used to a new environment and to a situation where for 1 week in the year, Esperanto and not the native language is the language number one of your day. This is something special, and that's why we do it, to create a kind of an Esperanto land where they can have the roles in first. And they often make friendships, and then they start communicating, which is now easier with the internet, and sometimes even traveling and visiting each other. Then, yeah, it's important that you find children of the similar age and the similar same sex and so on. Yeah, so if they make friends, we are happy because then they can actually use the language for what it was meant to be used for. That means international communication without linguistic borders. There are other events as well, and there are some Telegram groups. It was a new one. There's a mailing list. There is an organization. There is a wiki which collects links for the books. Like this book is a picture dictionary. We call it the blue book at home. It used to be a red in the previous edition. And yeah, it's just translated from English teaching book. You just replace the words. We have discussed a bit for this new edition to fix some words. And the children enjoy looking at the pictures and even asking or searching for the thing, depending on the age. This phenomenon of native speakers has existed in Esperanto movement, so to say, for a long time. Nobody actually knows who was the first to have this idea to teach the language to a child. There are different numbers appearing in literature, 1990, 1904, and a most recent date is already 1900, more or less. There was an article about from a lady who lives in Poland, but she lived in Hungary and so on, and her mother taught Esperanto to her, and actually the mother was a native speaker as well. I think her mother convinced the husband that he could only marry her if he learns Esperanto. And that was repeated 2 times. So there are 4 generations of Esperanto speakers in the family, starting from about 1900. They don't even know exactly the year. So that means less than 15 years after the language was created. And it took some time to the language to be spread and for the people to start meeting. So it was probably a thing from the very beginning. There are some famous Denaskulo, even among those few thousand people. You can find notable people like Petr Ginz. That's the picture on the right related to him. Was a Czech native Esperanto speaker who unfortunately died in the concentration camp in Oswięcim. He was from a Jewish family, as also the creator of Esperanto was a Jew. And they lived in Prague. In Theresienstadt, in Terezin, in the concentration camp, he actually created this dictionary, Czech Esperanto dictionary, by heart, because he knew the language as a child. He was a child of a Prague Jewish Esperanto speaker and a Czech woman whom he met in the club somewhere. And his painting of the Earth seen from space was taken to space by the first Israeli cosmonaut, Ilan Ramon, who, again, unfortunately perished in the catastrophe of spaceship Columbia. So there's a lot of interesting stories around Esperanto, but this is a Czech boy. There are also other people like Swiss Nobel laureate in medicine, or the German ambassador for the last time, I think, in Portugal, Ulrich Brandenburg. These people had actually Esperanto as their one of the first mother tongues. We also know that the 3 sisters Polgar from Hungary, world chess masters, learned Esperanto as children. It was part of their education. Their father was an Esperanto speaker, and as chess teacher, he decided to have a family and to bring up chess masters. And he managed 3 times out of 3 children. And part of his education was also teaching languages, including Esperanto. And it is for sure, yes, there's a comment about it.
Yeah, I had this correspondence with the father, Laszlo Fulgar.
Yes.
But yes, the Esperanto, as you said, is part of the education. So
Okay, yes, so I have put a question mark correctly. Chuck?
I've talked with both Shusha and Judith.
Uh-huh.
I interviewed Shusha for Contacto many years ago.
Uh-huh.
So, and she could correspond in Esperanto,
Uh-huh.
and she attended a New York Esperanto event where
Uh-huh.
she answered questions in Esperanto and then answered them in English.
Oh, see.
Passive knowledge.
Okay.
And Judith basically said that, yeah, Susan is the talent of the family
Yes.
who knows the languages.
Yes.
They all
Nice.
learn,
Uh-huh.
but Susan still has knowledge.
Yeah, so you see, it's very difficult to say who actually is an Esperanto native speaker and is today and was sometime. George Soros grew up in an Esperanto-speaking family in Hungary, and actually Esperanto helped him to emigrate first to Britain and then to the United States. And sometimes he has now said some words in support of Esperanto, but unfortunately has not given us any money to support our movement. So there are Esperanto-speaking families, and in a research from 1996, it was found that they share the same general human values like the Slovak control group. So they researched the values of Slovak-speaking families and of Esperanto-speaking families all over the world. And they found out that the Esperanto-speaking families have less respect for authorities, but they have much greater connection with the world, not just their own homeland. They are much more international, cosmopolitan. And they have a greater tolerance towards differences and other people, obviously. That's part of the internal idea of the language, so they kind of leave this idea, and they also pass it to the children. Their children are very successful at school, particularly in languages, maths, and art. But that, again, may be the cause of the parents. You know, the parents have almost all of them have a university education. They spend much more time with the children than average parents. And that's probably why. So this doesn't mean that if you speak Esperanto, you become clever. Probably it's particularly the kind of above average people who have this idea at all to learn Esperanto and to pass it to children. There are different approaches of how to use the language at home because there are no single language Esperanto speakers, or I may have met some who only were exposed to Esperanto till age 2, possibly, but then they started going to kindergarten and so on. You cannot escape this. So there has to be a set of rules, if it is to work, about when to use which language. The by far most frequent system is one person, one language. And what is interesting, Esperanto is predominantly passed on by fathers. So it's actually a father tongue, not a mother tongue. I don't know why, but probably because it's in the gatherings of Esperanto, it's more or less half and half, or maybe like here. So it doesn't mean that most speakers of Esperanto are men. After all, if you have native speakers, you teach the language to both girls and boys. But yeah, this is the case. And people would also think that Esperanto is used in the family if there's an international family. If two people from different countries meet at a gathering and decide to use Esperanto as a neutral language in the family. Sometimes, if they cannot have conversations in another language, but mostly it is that these families are ethnically homogeneous and they just decide to use Esperanto not out of an objective need, but out of a subjective feeling that this is important. They are so loyal to the idea of the language and to speaking it, they decide to pass it to their children because they think it's important, it can help them, the children can benefit from learning another language. And that's what I have done. I have a Czech wife, and I thought that it would be good for my children to have a second language, that it would open their minds from the very start to language learning in the future and to teach them two languages from the start so they can start learning more. Already now when they are learning English at school, they come and say, Father, the name for blua is blue in English, in Czech is modra. So yeah, they find help of this international European vocabulary found in Esperanto, but I think also like thinking in one language and in the other, that's cost them some effort at the beginning, but now it kind of works depending on the age and of the person. But I have 3 to compare. I speak only Esperanto to my children since they were born. Well, they'll hear me speaking Czech when I speak to my wife or when I speak to a visitor, and they know they have already found out that I can understand Czech. But if they ask for a candy or something, I'm free not to reply when they ask for it in Czech. So I wait for them to ask for it in Esperanto. And it works. You can do it only to some age, of course. But at that age, they already have not the trouble of using the correct language. They can pick it up. There are also other ways of using the language. One situation, one language. Particularly if you have more than 2 languages in the family, there are people who speak Esperanto when they are on their own with the family. When there is a visitor, they speak the language of the visitor or of the country. When they are out of home, they may use another language. There were even documented success stories of people using a time-based method. So like every other day we speak this language, and or on the Monday we speak this, and on Tuesday another one, or in different rooms. It's the same strategies that polyglots use to use and to maintain their languages, don't you? Yes, the Denaskulo in the community of Esperanto speakers do not have an important role. It's actually, technically speaking, negligible. There is no influence of their language on the Esperanto language. And this probably because Esperanto is complete enough. You don't really need a community of native speakers to complete the language. And if they make any innovations, they are the same kind of innovations that other speakers try to create, to name new things or to be creative, and some of that sticks, but it conforms to standards observed in other languages as well. So the language develops naturally, and the native speakers are a part of that. Actually, oftentimes they are worse than the people who have consciously learned Esperanto, because they have never seen the rules of the language and they may not care about the details, they just use it for everyday communication. And the language change is driven particularly by the L2 speakers, second language speakers. The Denaskulo do not form a separate community, so they're, except for that 1 week in a year, they are not together to decide something, to change something, to set the standard of the language. The standard comes from the publications, from the first years of the language, and then from an academy which tries to follow the development and describe it. And it also means they cannot be used to determine grammaticality. So you cannot use actually the method of determining what is correct by asking a person who has the language as a mother tongue and who is not educated and who doesn't speak any other language, because there are not such people. Somebody has thought that it is impossible to do Esperanto linguistics because you don't have any native speakers who would not be influenced by other languages to ask and research what they supposed to be correct. They always, the second language speakers obviously bring influences of the other languages, so they cannot be used for this purpose. So also the name native Esperanto speakers can be misleading then, because they don't fulfill this role as native speakers fulfill for native languages, national languages. Sorry. Yeah, so their existence and role is often overestimated in literature. It may be compared, their role and position, to pidgins, or reconstructed or dying languages, or dead languages. We heard about Latin as a dead language, but still you can make grammatical research on that language. Or there are languages which not yet have had native speakers, or which had them but don't have them anymore. But a better comparison would be with modern Hebrew, which is such a language which was kind of reviewed, and it didn't have native speakers at the beginning, but it doesn't mean that it was not a full language, it couldn't be studied, and now it does have native speakers, although it was to some extent planned, like Esperanto. This artificial bilingualism, where we create a situation where the language is used, and it would not be necessary to do so, but we prepare it. It's also not something strange or something particular to Esperanto. You can see it in migrant families when they bring their home language to their new country and they continue speaking and using and supporting this language in their home, even if they may not find any use out in the outside world. And it is also not strange that these native speakers stop using the language when they grow up. It's the same like with Irish or Scots Gaelic or Welsh. Even if there are programs to support these minority languages, which is not so much the case, but there is this loyalty in the Esperanto movement, still even these people stop using the minority language because of less prestige and fewer materials and fewer opportunities to use it. But yeah, that's how it is. So Esperanto is actually kind of natural language, so to say, a normal language to have native speakers. There is only the difference is that they don't have this leading role in the community. Here are some examples you should, for language acquisition, you should look in the study. There's details about the words. I'm not going to translate it. Just one example from my daughter. When she learns writing, she wrote a short message asking for a Christmas gift, and she used the Czech diacritics instead of the Esperanto, and she used some word interneto instead of interreto because she didn't know how to spell it, so she just added the O ending and made it an Esperanto word. And so, yeah, but it was a nice handwritten note which I could understand, and she is now a better writer, I hope. There are some native speakers who have never actually written in Esperanto, and they don't know how to write. I had someone sign a memory book for me, and he said, well, sorry, I'm a native speaker, but I cannot write the language. But again, you can observe that with languages which are only taught in the family and were never used in school. So yeah, I need to make sure that she also knows how to spell. And there are some examples of creativity in the language. I have heard from other people that children have invented words using the rich structure of morphology in Esperanto, like malmixi, which is the opposite of to mix. So it means to put in order, to compose. Or elektrujo, which is a container for electricity. So that would be a battery, I think. It's not a common word. In the dictionary you would find baterio or reordigi, but yes, they use the means that Esperanto gives to them, and they use it in a playful way. And my children are obviously mixing up Czech with Esperanto, so they have coined such nice words like motilio, which is a mixture of motil and papilio. They both mean the same thing, but just in the two languages. And the other said in winter nežulák, which is a nežulo, that is a figure man from snow, and sněhulák is snowman as well in Czech. So sněhulák and nežulo is nežulák. So you don't even know how to type it. It's a mixture of diacritics from the both languages. But yeah, the language is mostly spoken. I try to make notes of that. And I have a video so that you can actually hear a child, not my child, speaking in Esperanto. This video is on YouTube. You can also find it there. It's 17 years old. So this one-year-old boy is in the meantime a grown-up. He is from the US. He's called Cooper. And I would like you to play it now. Thank you.
Hey Cooper. Kie estas via buŝo?
Buŝo.
Kie estas viaj oreloj?
Ora.
Kie estas viaj haroj?
Ora.
Kie estas viaj okuloj?
Ora.
Kie estas via nazo?
Nasa.
Kie estas via lango?
Laka.
Kie estas viaj manoj?
Mana.
Kie estas via umbiliko?
Pika. Pika.
Kie estas viaj piedoj?
Peta.
Kie estas via ĉemizo?
Miso.
Kion diras kato?
Wow.
Kion diras hundo? Kion diras bovo? Ĉu vi povas kisi min?
Kisi. Kisi. Kisi.
Yeah, they are cute, aren't they? So it's worth raising them with another language. There are two other videos which I have put here on the slide. You can find them later. I will not play them here. They have both more than 500,000 views. One of them is for Wikitongues. They have interviewed one of famous native Esperanto speaker, Stella from Hungary, speaking in Esperanto with subtitles, and the other one is a video by Chuck Smith and Judith Meyer about, again, interviews with like 5 speakers, Esperanto like a native. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you, and we have time for questions. So there are questions on Slido. Should read from the top. Have your children faced negative reactions? People telling them it's not possible that they speak Esperanto or that it's not a real language? Yes, they don't tell me, but I have heard this from other older speakers that they have encountered it. Yes, it's like denying the existence of you, because you can easily prove that you speak the language. You have photos, videos, whatever from your birth. Yes, they don't understand this idea. Why you would do that? But that's not so often. More frequently, I hear from people that, yes, I'm speaking English to my children. Okay, but that's a different idea. But yes, I welcome this. They may be bilingual. I wouldn't dare speaking to the children in English because I'm not a native speaker and I don't want to influence their pronunciation and vocabulary. I prefer them to study it on their own or at school. But more frequently, actually, I don't meet any reactions or maybe just looks because they think we are foreigners, and it's still not very common in the Czech Republic to be a foreigner. So they don't dare speaking to us. Or maybe after a long time, I sometimes just introduce one Czech word somewhere so that they can hear it and they can understand that I'm Czech and they can speak in Czech to me. Because if I'm alone with the children on a playground, they think there are sometimes children playing next to us and saying, "Listen, they are speaking English." So, children, this is not English, this is another language, and I can explain to children or their parents. Yes. Another question? Can you tell the difference in accent between native and non-native speaker? No. You can tell their other mother tongue, and that works for almost every Esperanto speaker, unless they have really tried not to have an accent. So there is no accent for native speakers because they are always influenced by the other languages they have had. But it may be similar also like with English, you have different accents in different countries, so maybe to that extent. Question there? Or comment there, yes? I mean. Uh-huh. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a good comment. If they speak more languages at home other than Esperanto, they have kind of like a middle accent, which is difficult to determine which it is, because it's like a neutral accent out of those several ones that they listen to. That's good.
There is a possibility to know what is the native accent or the official accent from a phonematic point of view, but not from a prosodic point of view.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, that's true because people use the phonemes that they know in their mother tongue.
And so the phonemes in Esperanto are very clear. So there's an official pronunciation.
Yes.
There is not an official prosody.
That's true, yeah. So there is like a standard pronunciation, and if you don't follow it, you can be recognized, but the prosody may vary, and there is no standard. Thank you for the comment. Okay, yes, another question. What was your wife's first reaction to this idea? Well, we spoke about it before the marriage, and I told her that she cannot marry me unless she learns Esperanto. No, I didn't do that, but that was the actual story which I read in the paper. Now, she knew I was an Esperantist from the beginning. I was one when she met me. And yes, it was, I think it was something special about me, and she may have even liked it, because she also likes traveling and meeting other people. She went to the summer Esperanto school several times, but only for a few days every year, because we didn't have more time for that. And she actually advanced very quickly just by reading something, looking. So she learned the language to some extent, but she never really studied the details. But you know, if you grow up with if children grow up in your home and they slowly start taking the language, making mistakes, it's an easy language, made to be easy. So as an adult, you pick it up quicker than the children. So actually, I have not only taught it to the children, but also to my wife in the process. And yes, she must have been appreciative or at least tolerant of me doing that. And it's very good that she can understand what I'm telling to the children. Like if I prohibit something, then she should also follow suit, and she should not allow them to do the same thing just because she has not understood it. And this happens with my mother-in-law and other people, that I either need to translate what I told to the children, or the children have to tell them, so that I make sure that they also know. But with the wife now it's easier. She doesn't speak Esperanto. Only when we are in the gatherings where nobody speaks Czech, then she's also forced to use the language, and she can, although not so well as I. Another. How quickly do your children realize that their native language is not spoken by everyone outside of your house? Yes, at the beginning we say this is how father says it, and this is daddy says it, and this is how mommy says it. And that's now the age of 4. My youngest has now realized this, and he tries to say everything in the sentence in Esperanto, and if he doesn't know, he asks, instead of using a Czech word. That's now the age of 4. I think he doesn't realize much that there are not so many people around, but as soon as they enter school, then yes, they have more questions from people. Which country is Esperanto spoken in? I have to tell her what the answer is so that she can defend her position. And then, yes, she knows there is no country to go, and there are some people sometimes. But yes, it works. I think people like it, this idea that when I tell them about the gatherings and about the guests that we have at home, they like learning about this. But like in the kindergarten, it took more than a year before the teacher actually realized that we speak a different language when I come to pick him up, and when they are asking what language that is. And then she told me that another father speaks German to the child. I said, oh yeah, okay, that's similar. Yes, that's it. Your kids probably know you speak Czech. How do you encourage them to speak Esperanto? Yes, I can bribe them with candy and so, but I can also just not reply, or at least, they have to learn. So often I just accept, even if they mix. You should not correct them too much. You should not be too strict. But I repeat the thing in full correct Esperanto, so that they hear what I expected them to say. And they naturally learn better, because at some age they want to be good. And as I said, he is now asking me the words. So yes, they know it. And it's like a battle, every day. I don't know, sometimes I feel I am just answering Czech questions in Esperanto, and I don't want to be doing that. But sometimes when you're in a hurry, you don't want your child to find what the translation of the word is, because you can miss the train or something. It's everyday life. Do you think your situation is similar to an immigrant family teaching their children? Yes, I think so. I have not been, yes. Well, we are quite a homogeneous society here, so it's good to add another language. It's something that other children don't experience here. Do we know half of the kids drop out of the community, don't speak it actively later? Why? Yes, they might have been too much forced by the parents. They might have other interests, because I know that everyone will be interested in languages and meeting people. They might be introverts. They might have not had enough chances to go, because you could see, for instance, all this culture, and Esperanto as well, is mostly European based. So if you live in South America, you have fewer opportunities. We have such people come over, we welcome them, but if the parents don't spend so much time and don't find the opportunities, they may just lose interest because they don't feel it's useful. After all, economics work also here. So if you have no use for the language and no internal motivation to use it, you just forget about it. Some parents actually stop using Esperanto when the children enter school, because it's difficult to translate all the school matters into Esperanto. You have to learn a lot. I have to learn the names of all the utensils in the kitchen when I started raising the children. You don't speak about that in Esperanto gatherings, how you cook and whatever. Yeah? This vocabulary is special. We have the Telegram group to discuss that. Your children sometimes ignore you or refuse. Yes, sure, many times. But also they would do in other languages. They are just children. Would you speak to your children in Esperanto when you are out? Yes, sometimes I'm a bit ashamed about it, and sometimes I feel it's not really polite to do so, but I need to I don't really start using a different language, because if I have been doing this for 9 years, I just continue, but then I may be translating for the other children, like for their friends, or they may tell to the other children themselves, and then they learn at least some translation and so on skills. Kiam aja vi havis, kiam vi lernis Esperanton, dankon por la demando. How old I was when I started learning Esperanto when I was 17, was it? Yes, 18, 17. 17. So it's been the bigger half of my life to say that I've been already speaking Esperanto. Some people actually ask me if I'm a native speaker. I say, unfortunately not. Do you encourage your children to speak Esperanto between themselves? Not only in the gatherings when it is impolite to speak a national language, because everyone else speaks Esperanto there. How came the idea to raise your children? A specific reason? Yeah, because I observed the other people, like those who speak the language, and I saw they were normal people. They were visibly even more clever, and they had this opportunity to use the language from childhood. And I would have wanted the same for me, and I thought it could only benefit them. And if they don't like it, they can quit later. So that's why I wanted to give something good to my children. Why so many of the children give up with Esperanto speakers? Their own state with a government and army someday. I think, Esperanto speakers, not just the native speakers. Yeah, some of them have tried, like micronations and so on. You can look it up in the Esperanto articles on Wikipedia. Whether my children have dreams in Esperanto, yes, I can confirm that. If I'm awake at night, I can hear them sometimes speaking from their sleep, and sometimes they actually speak in Esperanto. Yes, that was very funny, because then I realized they are speaking to me in the dream. I think we don't have the time anymore for more questions. Sorry for that. Yes, but thank you for your attention and thank you for coming.